guess what? It's time for IRL Esports. Now, one of the goals of the show is to highlight the amazing people and events that happen in the esports and competitive gaming space. And every week we try to feature a different personality in the scene. This time, we have someone who has attended numerous esports events and knows a thing or two about hosting them as well. He's also a well-known... Speaking of hosts, he's also a well-known member of the FGC, especially when it comes to Injustice 2. Let's please welcome to the show, Joshua Gray, also known as Clutch from your MLG days. Guys.
Happy to be here.
And so is our audience. They are very excited, both online and off.
Happy to join your one-woman army. You're killing it up here. I know how tough it can be to carry a show on your own, folks. So,
it's so nice to be up here with someone. Let's talk a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
Give me the Josh bio. Tell us who you are and how your journey got you to sitting next to me right here at This Week in Esports.
Quite a journey. We'll start from the beginning. So first of all, as a young kid, loved video games, loved to perform, and always wanted to be on television, make movies, et cetera, et cetera. 1998, 1999, big fan of Counter-Strike, big fan of StarCraft Brood War, and I even participated in local events here in the Seattle area, down in Federal Way, where I grew up.
Now, was this Counter-Strike 1.6?
This was the 1.6 days, yes.
And Brood War for StarCraft.
I was getting wrecked in Counter-Strike, so I stuck with Brood War and did a couple of local tournaments and had a lot of fun and was able to meet a lot of different people, not only locally, but also online. And if we fast forward about 10 years later, StarCraft 2 is coming out in 2010. Huge fan. I have my own YouTube channel. I'm doing a countdown series. And after the game comes out, it's just pretty much taking over all of my free moments that I have in between work and school. Hear about an event happening with MLG. Now, I had known about esports in the past with what Korea was doing with StarCraft Brood War and what MLG had been doing with Halo. So to see that MLG is going to be taking on StarCraft 2, we thought, oh, this is going to be great. I tried to get a ticket. Tickets sold out in 26 seconds. Couldn't get one. But a friend of mine was able to get a ticket. So myself and another friend drove with him to Raleigh, North Carolina, attended the event, and met some really cool people that worked for MLG. Introduced ourselves, showed them my YouTube video, and said, hey, we want to be a part of this in the future. How can we stay in contact? Stayed in contact. They hired my friend who competed as an admin, and they hired me as a cameraman. So for the next couple of events, I'm showing up as a cameraman, just, you know, one-hit wonder type of thing, showing up for the weekend and then saying goodbye to everybody. So it felt like a reunion every time we were going back to these different events. And I always wanted to host because my background was performance. I was going to school to get my acting degree. I just started my junior year in 2010. So when I was a cameraman, then I worked myself up to production assistant and was like, okay, how does this live scenario work? Learning all sorts of different facets when it comes to live production. But knowing that I always wanted to be a host. So we brought on League of Legends after StarCraft 2 was showing a lot of success for MLG. And the director next to me, I told him, like, hey, man, I like to host. If you need me, let me know. I'll bring my own suit jacket. And he's like, all right, man, I'll let you know if that's going to happen. So I brought it. And the last day, they were having some issues and hiccups with the spectator client because this is new for League of Legends. And next he's like, all right, man, now's your time to shine if you want to host. Said, great. Threw on the suit jacket, went out and did a little segment to explain what was happening, to make sure not to reveal everything that was happening with the game itself because the players could hear, and to thank everybody for their patience as we worked to get this resolved. And I remember I did that for the very first time anybody's ever seen me on camera in the esports world. And this younger kid whipped his head around and looked at me and went, that was really epic, man. I said, thanks, kid. And I went backstage. And everybody on the production line were like, yep, yep, you're our host now. And so I was able to host not just for League of Legends, but then StarCraft 2. StarCraft 2 continued to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was able to grow my brand with the excellent people at MLG and then start working at other events outside of MLG and outside of StarCraft 2. Fast forward to 2012, I have a job offer in New York or a job offer in California right when I graduate with my bachelor's degree in acting. I decided to take the California job at minimum wage, pack up everything in my car in Virginia and move all the way to California and start working the very day that I arrive. I pulled up, parked, and then start working on the video board. Like that's how quickly they're putting me to work.
I love it. Okay.
So that's 2010. NASL has the StarCraft 2 events that we do. They love our live broadcast, and minimum wage was tough. It really was tough. But a couple months later, we were able to secure a contract with World of Tanks.
Ooh, okay.
So World of Tanks brought in a lot more money. I was able to have a living wage along with a number of other people, and we put together a really solid team to produce a World of Tanks esports circuit, esports show. We did that for about a year and a half. And at that time, ESL in Europe was starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Gotcha.
And they were coming to America. They called me up and said, hey, ESL's coming to America. Do you want to be a part of this? And I said, well, World of Tanks is paying my bills, so if you guys get the World of Tanks contract, obviously I'm going to be on board. That's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, NASL folded after that, but the majority of the team that worked at NASL came over to ESL America. Slowly but surely started off as contractors and then build themselves up to full-time salary. When we started that company, I was employee number 7, and we started with a warehouse full of nothing but sawdust. We just built our own tables, brought in our own computers, and started to get to work. Within a couple months, we built it into a fully functioning studio, and we had a solid team that was able to make a really good product with World of Tanks. Not the most popular game to watch, especially in America, but we had a solid 15-minute pregame show and a really tight 3 to 4 hour broadcast that was really refining all of us and our team members on how to make a really excellent show, even if though it's not the most popular game.
Well, it's also a popular, maybe not as an esport, but World of Tanks, World of Battleship, like those are iconic.
Yes,
for sure.
They are huge, especially in Europe, especially in Poland. So the global influence was amazing and allowed me to travel across the world. In China, South Korea, Germany, Poland. I had to host a show in Poland one time. There was technical difficulties, and they said, hey, we need you to fill for 15 minutes. And I went, okay, that's why I'm here.
Yay!
So we can empathize as hosts what that could be like. Fast forward a couple years after that, I had this opportunity to host for Warner Brothers for Gauntlet, which was a retro game that was coming back. We had this really fun show that we hosted both in Europe and in America. I hosted the American show. And outside, I was talking to a couple of the Warner Brothers people there. And they were saying, yes, we're looking at some other programs, and time stopped. And I knew exactly what they were going to say, and I knew what my reaction was going to be when they said it. And he said, Mortal Kombat. And I jumped up in the air, and I said, listen, I have ideas. I was a fighter for 10 years. I played baseball for 14 years. I come from a competitive background. I love competition, especially with fighting games. Here's how we can combine everything that our crew has learned. Let me work on what the vision's going to be. How am I going to level up what the fighting game world has not seen before, mix in what we've learned from esports, but still hold on to the core of what makes the fighting game world legitimate and genuine. And so we created the Mortal Kombat X Pro League. I was surrounded by a lot of gifted people. And when we went to the 9th floor at the Warner Brothers studio location in Burbank and having to explain to everybody, this is what this program can be, will you fund it? You know, that's asking for a lot, but they said yes. We did the first event called Fatal 8, and that's what really changed the hearts and minds of the developer, NetherRealm, and Warner Brothers to see, wow, this is an amazing 3-hour show. We understood everything that was going on, and this is now something that we can market and try to get more money into. So we were able to have 3 successful seasons. The overall budget we had was under $3 million. And recently, I showed off this video and made the claim that, you know, we could do this again with a fighting game title and competition for about $3.5 million. And I wanted to be very transparent about that because a lot of people in the fighting game world and the esports world are going, okay, well, what's legitimate? What money is real? What's this dumb money coming in?
I was going to say, yeah, dumb money coming in. That's a great way to put it, right?
How can we trust these venture capitalists that are still using capital S in esports, right? So there's the benchmark. There's the benchmark. We were able to create this. And not only was this successful in the internet world of distribution, it was successful enough to put on network television for the very first time. Esports had ever been seen on network television with a documentary series that Machinima did called Chasing the Cup that was aired on the CW. I was able to be a very important piece of that and was very honored to be part of that team that made that possible. That showcased season 2, we did season 3, and then the seasons were over as we were getting ready for the release of Injustice 2. During that time, I was still working for ESL, doing a lot of products and
so there's a lot of plates I'm seeing here, Josh.
I mean, you name the game, I've probably hosted or produced or written something for it when it comes to content. Fast forward to Injustice 2, we do the GameStop Hometown Heroes program, a regional-based online circuit focused more on the amateur players to bring more people into Injustice 2. Had the finals in Las Vegas. Then we had the Injustice 2 Pro Series finals on ESPN2 in LA, which was awesome. And then we did 4 episodes on TBS for E-League. One was on internet only, and 3 were on TBS. And that was an amazing experience to be a part of. So within this span, about 7.5, 8 years, I was able to accomplish my goals of combining my love of video games and performance and being on TV. So I'm like, okay, childhood goals, check. What's next? I decided to leave ESL to pursue what I want to do independently and to focus, still keep one foot in esports, but focus more of my energy, time, and talent into film and theater and comedy and writing and see where that goes. And it'll be up here in Seattle.
Woohoo!
So there you go.
Good. Just. First of all, there is.
That's why I'm getting more of these gray hairs, I think.
It's okay. You're in your prime James Bond years. You're fine.
Yes, exactly.
So I will say that it's interesting to me because you've touched on a couple of different, your reach has been a couple of different games that are the Injustice 2s, the World of Tanks, the StarCraft 2s. Now, StarCraft, obviously huge. League of Legends. Do I need to say more?
Well, yeah, StarCraft 2 kind of paved the way, and League of Legends was able to go, okay, instead of a 1v1 game, this is a 5-man team game. It's a MOBA, which is kind of a new concept to a lot of people, and it exploded. It was the right atmosphere, and it was the right mode of distribution, broadband internet, that really was able to change the game of esports, for sure.
Well, now, so Injustice 2, let's go back to that, because it's relatively new.
Yes.
Relatively niche. I mean, I don't know. Actually, I shouldn't have said that because, quite frankly, I don't know why people wouldn't enjoy those characters. But what's got you excited about that title, or some of these that are not necessarily the biggest, the Dota 2s internationals, or what's gotten you excited about some of these more peripheral esports?
Well, when it comes to Injustice 2, obviously it's a sequel to Injustice, which came out after Mortal Kombat 9, which changed really the NetherRealm scene, because the community, along with the success of Street Fighter 4, saw what Mortal Kombat 9 could be with the local competitions, and then starting to grow more online. Injustice 1 came out, online still wasn't where it needed to be when it came to fighting games, but they were getting closer and closer. And obviously with DC characters, you have a huge fan base that's going to be intrigued.
Yes.
After the huge success of Mortal Kombat X, I mean, that game went gangbusters for NetherRealm and Warner Brothers, along with the Mortal Kombat X Pro League. Injustice 2 was that next logical step of, okay, here we go. Now, Injustice 2 is different compared to Mortal Kombat. Not only the game style's a little bit different, you have DC characters that can't kill each other, so it's a little bit limited on the violence. But having a title that features some of the most iconic characters ever in pop culture, and to see it presented in a style, graphically it looks gorgeous. The music is on tempo and upbeat and just kind of perfect in this scenario. The story for the single player campaign is great. And then you have the gear system where you're able to customize the look of your character.
Gamers love customizing.
Along with all sorts of tools for a single player experience, the multiverse, the AI system that helps you get better at how to play that character. To me, I'm always excited to see what NetherRealm's going to do for the next title, because they bring in a lot of tools that help people that are not as familiar with fighting games get more adjusted and to be able to learn why it's so much fun, not only to play, but to watch. And NetherRealm continues to push that envelope to make their games better, not only for the in-person experience, but for the online experience. When they made Mortal Kombat XL with the new upgraded netcode, that changed everything. Because now, when I played online, it felt like I was playing with somebody in the same room. And that's what competition needs to have.
Yes.
And that's what we had with Mortal Kombat X and Injustice 2.
That gets your blood pumping for sure. So fighting game community, this is interesting also, and I'm going to go back once again to the width and breadth of your experience, because you mentioned MOBAs. You mentioned 1v1. You mentioned, fighting game communities. I'm curious, because the fighting game community is such a unique one, would you say the differences between the fighting game community fans, for example, you've been at the LANs, and some of these more like MOBAs or 1v1s?
If we take a step back and look at the history of competition in general, fighting games have been in arcades before the internet was even a thing. You put your quarter to reserve your spot, and then you're ready to go. So people were able to cultivate tournaments out of these events to make some sort of just community event that felt social, that people were there to have a good time and to compete and see who was the best.
Like Twin Galaxies style, right? Exactly.
They were able to log the scores and find out who in these local markets were the best. So you had that going on even before, the 2006, 2007, 2008 growth and then bubble popping of that industry of esports, mostly due to what happened to the economy, but then it started to grow again in 2010. So when you see the PC and console world, the console world being, Halo, doing their own thing for a while, but then to see it start to grow because of internet distribution, because of YouTube, because of Twitch, because of Mixer, people are able to access this content to where before, if I wanted to watch a StarCraft Brood War video, I have to find it somewhere in Team Liquid forums, buried deep, where Boxer's amazing play was with the Vulture and et cetera, and the Spider Mines, and that's going way back. So now
deep pull,
exactly,
I like it.
Exactly. So now that this is continuing to grow, and more industries and companies are looking at StarCraft 2 and League of Legends, thinking, oh, this a lot of people are jumping on board because they can watch it. Fighting games were still maintaining and holding onto their grassroots, and they didn't jump on board because their game titles didn't have the internet capabilities yet to have that competition. But as soon as they did, that's when they started to explode when it came to the amount of people that were playing online. Yeah. That grassroots feeling is never going to go away for the FGC, because at the end of the day, it comes down to who is the best of the best sitting down across the table from you. And each of these regional areas, Florida, Atlanta, the Northeast, the Midwest, SoCal, San Francisco, the Emerald City, each of those areas have their own unique community. And those communities continue to foster and grow, no matter if there's venture capitalists or not coming in with money. They'll do it just to break even or sometimes losing money, because that fire and that passion is so prevalent with those people. And when it comes to the fans, the best example I can give is that my parents have tuned into almost every show that I've done. And you know, they try to watch Dota 2, they try to watch League, and they try to watch StarCraft. They're like, we kind of get it, but we're getting a little bit lost. When they tuned into the Mortal Kombat X Pro League, they understood everything that happened. And our shows were between 2 hours to 3 hours long. And so that was a chunk of time that people could digest. My parents went, oh, we got it. This was great. We were entertained. And they weren't just saying that because they were my parents. So you have that fan base that is able to digest what's happening on the screen way easier compared to other games that require, you know, a lot of items or knowledge about the characters, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say that's the main difference. The fighting game world is, I believe, well, it has already shown to be ready for network television and cable television. And whenever we see that happen, it's always a success for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now we've covered what you've done. Let's talk about where you're going there. Because you're obviously a guy who's making moves, and you're a guy that knows the scene. What does the future look like for Mr. Gray?
Well, we have the Injustice 2 Pro Series that has been announced. You can get more information at injustice.com/esports. I will personally be at 2 of those events at least. I'll be at Combo Breaker in Chicago next month, and I'll also be at EVO, which is the biggest fighting game competition every year. And if you have a chance to go, especially for the finals. They do a wonderful job to really show what it's like to have an entire community of people in a giant arena cheering for their favorite games. It's pretty dope.
I was gonna say I've never been. I've only ever seen video, but it looks like goosebump inducing.
It is, and it's not only the live production and the competition. It's a reunion for everybody. So many people that I have come to love, that I've worked with from around the world. We get to see each other, if not Combo Breaker, then definitely at EVO, and talk about what's the future, and to hear from the players what they want to see when it comes to the future, because the players always need to have a voice when it comes to competition. Whenever a developer or publisher or partners are trying to sponsor or create a league, the players need to have a voice in order to schedule it better for everybody. And that needs to be a continual thing that I'm involved in. Even if it costs money out of my own pocket to go to the events, I'd rather do that to make sure the community continues to progress and is on the right track. Outside of that, keeping my eye on other events. Huge congratulations to the Halo guys for putting on a great event. I was able to see some of the highlights. Brilliant. And staying on top of Red Bull as well. I was able to host for Red Bull for Battlegrounds last 2 years, and what they're doing with Conquest is great. The regional matches are fantastic, so I'll be at the event happening May 19th. Nice. And E-League continues to produce great content.
They do.
I wish that E-League or TBS had an app that I could spend $6 to $10 on a month so that I could just catch those episodes whenever I wanted to.
That would be so great. I know.
Because I'm not going to spend $50 on cable.
Yeah, no, I've cut the cord too. I'm with you. And as an E-League alum as well, I would totally agree with you. And I'll say this, you're absolutely right when it comes to people's ability to, really ingest something. And E-League is one of those organizations that has done such a good job.
Honored to work with them, and they continue to push the envelope, along with a lot of other people that continue to push the envelope. But that's one of those things where I've seen other distribution or networks do that, where you pay a fee and you get those programming. So to me, I'm down to pay $10 to get Samantha Bee, Conan O'Brien, and E-League. So hopefully we can see something.
The trifecta. Last question. This is a favorite of ours, and you're often, I'm sure, asked in the non-esports circles. Why esports? Why is it a thing? Why would your parents get into it? Why would X, Y, or Z, Joe Schmo, sports guy, girl, traditional, be in on this? And can they?
I'm reminded of a conversation I had with Jimmy Rollins, who's a famous baseball player. And this was during an event that we did with E-League for Street Fighter V. And I told Jimmy, I said, Jimmy, I played baseball for 14 years growing up. So I know what it's like to be in that batter's box, having to decide to swing at that ball coming at you so fast you have less than a second, right? To make that decision to swing. Well, that is what every fighting game player is doing every second. They have to decide, is that a low? Is that an overhead? Is that a high? Am I going to block? Am I going to counter? Am I going to backstep? Am I going to move forward? Am I going to go for the throw? All these different options that they have to make in that amount of time. And I told that to him, and he said, you're absolutely right. It's exactly like that. So instead of a batter having to wait for the pitch and find that right moment, those fighting game players have to keep finding those right moments over and over and over again. Now, the difference is they don't have to run to that first base and sweat.
I mean, true, yeah.
But they have to outthink their opponent. And there are moments where I have played against some of the pros and I was able to guess correctly or make the right move. Just in that one moment, you know, I win 1 game out of 50.
Yeah.
But that exhilaration is the same exhilaration that I felt when I was a baseball player or when I was fighting in Taekwondo. It's that same type of, I'm in my element, I'm not thinking, I'm feeling. This is everything that I'm trained for. I'm just going to be in the moment and go and unleash all my talent. And when you see athletes do that for not just their salary, but for the pride and the honor and to feel that they've accomplished something and they're proud to represent where they're from, you know, their region, that same feeling is with players that play video games. The biggest difference right now, I would say the separator from the traditional sports area and esports is just what the entire media world is going through. Everything is becoming more segmented, more niche, but because it's so much more accessible. And I'm very excited to see where that's going to go in the future of that. I'm always an entertainer. It's in my blood. Ever since I was 5 years old, it's never going to go away. I tried to go in the Air Force for a bit. I'm like, man, I'm really an entertainer. Even when I was in the Air Force, I had Ace Combat 4. I had the flight stick and the throttle. I had other cadets going, I'm going to buy that from you for $500 to train that for flight school. I'm like, no, man, I need this for flight school. So having video games be always a part of who I am and entertainment always being a part of who I am, to marry those two things together and to also learn so much in the world of producing and hosting and writing and creating segments and filming. It's everything that I could have asked for up until my 30s. Now that I'm 32, I'm going, okay, what else do I want to try to accomplish in this world of entertainment, both inside and outside of esports? And finally, for those that are interested in wanting to join the esports world, the number one thing I would say is bring something to the table. This is entertainment, period. This is the same type of entertainment mentality as the MMA or football or soccer, etc. So look at how each of these entertainment broadcasts are done. You have your graphics package, you have your talent, you have your writers, you have your cameramen, you have your referees, you have your host. You have all sorts of things when it comes to putting on a live production or a tournament. So think about which of those areas you want to be a part of in order to make the broadcast more successful and be realistic with your goals. I mean, it's taken us this amount of time to get where we are now, and it's still a bit of the Wild West. But when it comes to entertainment in general, it's always going to be cutthroat. I mean, being an actor ever since I was 5.
Subjective, cutthroat, absolutely.
My parents like, hey, this is going to be a tough business. Well, so be it. If you're a fan of the game itself, because esports is kind of such a platitude word, I mean, there's so many things that encapsulate what esports is. If you're a fan of that game, be involved in the community as much as you can and see what areas need your expertise. And if you have to do it pro bono at first to build a body of work, so be it. But as the Joker says, if you're good at something, never do it for free.
I don't know what else to say other than thank you so much, Josh. Where can people find you?
People can find me online, Mr. Joshua Gray, Mr. Joshua Gray on Twitter and Instagram. And I'll be at the different FGC events. I may be streaming a little bit here and there as well, so you can find me on the streaming channels, Mr. Joshua Gray. And thank you, everybody, for supporting the FGC, and we look forward to more success in the future.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Joshua Gray, ladies and gentlemen.